Welcome to the Health Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Jean Armand. The Health Flow Podcast is designed to share healthcare information and experiences that will educate and empower you to make better health decisions. This week's topic is about obesity. Obesity means having too much body fat. With this topic, I know that it's a real important topic, but I also know it's sometimes a very touchy topic, and if a person is not ready to talk about it or face it, it could be something that they could just push away. But I know that obesity affects our health in many ways, and this is important to me because I'm doing this podcast so that I can help others share information that will cause you to make better health decisions. So we're going to talk about how obesity can actually raise our risk for certain health conditions. Obesity increases our risk for high blood pressure. Obesity increases our risk for type 2 diabetes. Obesity increases our risk for heart disease. Obesity increases our risk for stroke. Obesity increases our risk for gallbladder disease. Obesity increases our risk for osteoarthritis. Obesity increases our risk for having sleep apnea. And obesity even increases our risk for certain cancers. So by the end of this, you're going to see that obesity is really not a good word. It's a bad thing. In America, they say that about 93 million Americans are obese, and about 33% of Americans have excess body weight. So now let's just talk about all the different risk factors, because I truly do believe that if you understand the risk factors, it may cause you, it just may spark something in you to change the way you feel about your being overweight, if you really and truly understand the effects of what being overweight can have on your health. So let's start with heart disease. Okay. If you're overweight, an overweight person has, or a better way to say it, the more weight you have, the more blood has to flow through your body. So that means that your heart have to work harder to pump that extra blood. You can use the analogy of like lifting weights. The more weight you lift, the bigger your muscle gets. Our heart is one of those muscles we don't necessarily want to get bigger. So with increased body weight, your heart has to pump more blood. The harder your heart has to work and to pump more blood, the thicker the heart muscle will get. A thicker heart muscle, with a thicker heart muscle, it's harder to squeeze and relax with each heartbeat. So a thicker heart muscle over time, the bigger your heart gets, the thicker the muscle gets, that may actually cause your heart to fail. Strokes. So what's a stroke? A stroke is when you have a disruption or stoppage of blood supply to a certain part of your brain. that results in what we call a stroke. And a stroke is the leading cause of disability because depending on where the stroke happens in your brain, you could be affected by you being paralyzed on the left side, the right side. You could be paralyzed just in your upper extremities, your arms, or you could just be paralyzed in your legs. You can lose vision. You can lose your ability to talk, or you could actually lose your ability to understand. So it is very specific that depending on where you have this disruption of blood flow in your brain, you will exhibit symptoms because of that affected area of your brain. So, a stroke is the leading cause of disability in the United States, and it is the fourth leading cause of death in the USA. Now, let's move on to our gallbladder. So, our gallbladder is located in the right upper quadrant of our abdomen, just underneath your liver. The main purpose of your gallbladder is to store and concentrate bile. Bile is a fluid that our bodies use to break down fat and really fat soluble vitamins. Bile is made by the liver and it is secreted into the gallbladder, which like I said before, the gallbladder stores bile. When we eat fat, the gallbladder contracts and sends bile into our small intestines through ducts. The bile is stored in our gallbladder. The bile that's stored in our gallbladder is made up of cholesterol, bilirubin, and bile salts. This is just really a balancing act because too much or too little of any of these ingredients, any of the cholesterol, bilirubin, or bile salts, can result in us developing gallstones. Now, gallstones aren't usually a problem unless they disrupt or they stop the function of the gallbladder and any of the surrounding organs. So this is how obesity fits in. Obesity can make it harder for the gallbladder to empty. So if the gallbladder is not emptying, with the buildup of bile, you have an increasing risk of developing gallstones. Another problem with obesity is that you have increased cholesterol production by your liver, and this also leads to more cholesterol in the bile. Remember I said it was a delicate balance between the cholesterol, the bilirubin, and the bile salts. You need a balance of that so you don't develop gallstones. Other causes that can actually cause you to develop gallstones, it isn't just from you being obese, like if you lose weight too fast, say, for example, bariatric surgery that causes you to lose weight more than 3 pounds a week, that can also be associated with you forming gallstones. If you follow a diet, low-calorie diet, or fasting for a long period of time, that can also cause you to develop gallstones, or just the repeatedly losing and gaining weight, that yo-yo thing, that back and forth, that can also increase your risk of gallstones. And actually having a less active life increase your risk of gallstones. And finally, gallstones can develop just in females that are over 40, or if you're pregnant, and if you just have a family history of gallstones. Now, the effects of being overweight, obesity on arthritis. So, being overweight increases the load and pressure that's placed on your joints, and that can cause them to break down, especially with your knees. According to the Johns Hopkins Arthritis Center, they're now saying that being only 10 pounds overweight can increase the force on your knees by 30 to 60 pounds with each step. Can you imagine? 10 pounds. So if somebody is 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, the pressure that's on your knees with each step, that's a lot. They're saying only 10 pounds of overweight increases the force on the knee by 30 to 60 pounds with each step. So, goodness, being overweight really does affect you. Another cause of increased risk of overweight is sleep apnea. Now, sleep apnea, or we call it in the medical field, they may say OSA, which is just obstructive sleep apnea. That causes your breathing to stop and start like multiple times during sleep. So some of the signs and symptoms of sleep apnea include some of the following. You have daytime sleepiness, loud snoring at night. You may have episodes of where you stop breathing during your sleep. You may be woken up suddenly, gasping or choking. You're waking up with a dry mouth or sore throat. You wake up in the morning with a headache. During the daytime, you can have difficulty concentrating, or you have mood changes, depression, or irritability. And sleep apnea is also associated with high blood pressure and decreased libido. I mean, obviously, you're not getting much sleep at night, so I can definitely see where that comes in. So how does it happen? So one of the causes for the sleep apnea is that when the muscles in the back of your throat relax too much, they relax too much to allow normal breathing. So as the muscles relax, your airway narrows or even close. This can then lower the level of the oxygen in your blood and cause a buildup of CO2 or carbon dioxide. Our brains sense the interruption in your breathing, and it causes you to wake up and open your airway. This can happen about 5 to 30 times or more in an hour and happen all night long. And as you see, that can result in a lack of sleep, causing all those symptoms I mentioned before. So most people with sleep apnea are overweight. There's fat deposits around their upper airway, and that can obstruct their breathing. Not everyone with sleep apnea is overweight. I just want to make that clear. But being overweight is the most common cause for sleep apnea. So sleep apnea can also be caused by a narrowed airway, and you could have been born with that or inherited. There's also saying just having high blood pressure alone can cause sleep apnea. And then also, if you're a person who has chronic nasal congestion, that can also be associated with sleep apnea, or smokers, or just people who have a history of people who have a history of a family history of sleep apnea, or if you have asthma. Those can be some other causes. The take home message is that being overweight is the most common cause of sleep apnea. Now, I mentioned type 2 diabetes. Now, one day I will have to, I say one day, but in the near future, I'm going to have a podcast session just on diabetes. That's how significant and important it is. But just that, I'm just going to mention this now that we're talking about, obesity. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. It is known that obesity is a major risk for developing type 2 diabetes. So if you're there, what has been found in research is that 90% of the type 2 diabetics are overweight or obese. And if a person was to just lose as little as 5% of the total body weight, that can improve their type 2 diabetes, just a 5% body weight. It's known that some patients with type 2 diabetes, if they lose enough weight, can completely, can have a complete resolution or improvement of their type 2 diabetes. But, and just so that you're aware, type 2 diabetes, your body either resists the effects of insulin or it doesn't produce enough insulin to maintain normal glucose levels. Type 2 diabetics mainly affects adults. And it is the reason for type 2 diabetics is that your body either resists the effects of insulin or doesn't produce enough insulin to maintain total normal body glucose level. And being overweight is one of the main causes of type 2 diabetes. When you're overweight, it also can increase your cancer risk. And how does it do that? You get, because of increased levels of insulin and increased growth factor when you're obese, just the increased level of insulin and increased growth factor increases your cancer risk. When you're obese, they say that people who are obese have a chronic and low level of inflammation. And if you have chronic inflammation, that also increases your risk for cancer. And higher amounts of estrogen, which is produced by fat tissue, can also increase your risk of cancer, especially breast cancer and endometrial cancers in females. Being overweight or obese is linked to many cancers: breast cancer, colorectal cancer, uterine cancer, kidney cancer, head and neck cancer, esophageal cancer, pancreatic cancer, and there's more. So I just wanted to at least touch on the fact that being overweight, being told that you're obese, has many repercussions. So now, what's keeping you from losing the weight? I thought of this. So some of the things that we first have to do is acknowledge it. Are you overweight? Are you obese? Do you have extra weight? What's keeping you overweight? Is it the food that you're eating? Have you really asked yourself, why am I eating this? Is it because you're drinking too much alcohol? Is it because you're not finding enough time to exercise? And one of my pet peeves when I have patients is, and I say, so what are you doing about your exercising? And they say, well, I work and I do a lot of walking or lifting at work. So that's enough exercise. Not, I'm going to say not. So your body has become accustomed to that type of exercise that you do at work, and it's not increasing your heart rate. And if you're not burning calories, no, you're not doing enough. I mean, being depressed, are you unhappy? Are you depressed? Are you using food for comfort? When life struggles happen, I mean, let's just be real. We tend to turn to sex, drugs, alcohol, food to comfort us during the times that we feel we need to be comforted. What's keeping us overweight sometimes is just, the way we were raised, how we saw our parents or family members, how they cook their food. I mean, it may not have been the healthiest ways, the type of foods that we tend to eat and the way it's prepared. It's just part of us. It's ingrained in us. We are a product of our environment, and let's be real, it's hard to change. I mean, I think of myself as being Jamaican American. I say that because I was born in Jamaica, and moved here since I was like age 10 to the U.S. And most Caribbean and, even Hispanic foods, we eat a lot of carbs. There's a lot of rice that, people from that part of the world eat. It is not always the healthiest, but you can change it. But you have to first recognize that, there's a problem. I'm overweight and I need to do something about it. Another thing I'll say often to patients that I see is that no one's going to come inside your body and love you and take care of you better than you. You can't rely on any family member, any nurse, doctor, lawyer, sister, brother, mother, father to care about your body more than you. At some point, you have to want it for yourself. You have to recognize that being overweight, carrying this extra weight, write down what it's doing to you, how it's making you feel, and come up with a plan. I'm serious. It's time for us to get healthier and to take the necessary steps that's going to cause us to live longer and healthier. So how do we do this? So some of the things that I would suggest is, as far as food is concerned, you have to decrease your calorie intake. And it's a balancing thing. If you're taking in more calories than you're burning, you're not going to lose weight. As simple as that. I say to myself, I'm not going to drink my calories. I'd rather eat the food. So therefore, I couldn't even tell you the last time I drank a soda, any soda, whether any soda. It's not part of my routine. I've now gotten into the habit where I'd rather have water because I don't want to drink the extra calories. I'd rather have it in my food. You can limit, it's small changes like that. You can change your dessert habit. You don't have to eat chocolate every night or have a dessert with your meal every night. I think about moderation, and I'm not here to tell anyone what they should eat or not eat. I'm not suggesting any specific diet. I'm not telling you to become a vegan or a pescatarian or whatever diets they have out here. My thing is that you have to realistically make the changes that you can keep up with. Do what fits in your lifestyle. But it starts with A, you recognizing that there's a problem. B, you make a plan to change things that's going to get you the outcome that you want. It's not going to happen without you putting in the work. It is really no big secret how to lose weight. You should be eating less calories and burning more. We need food for energy. But if you're taking in more energy than you're burning, then you are not going to lose weight. More than likely, you will gain weight. Keeping a food journal. That is, to me, that's key. Because it's not until you see it in writing and you track what you're eating that you really realize, oh my goodness, I can't believe I took so much calories. I have to tell you, one of my coworkers and her mother, they were telling me about their great success with weight loss by using Weight Watchers. So Weight Watchers has changed a lot. And one of the things that they do, and I even do that now, is just to track what I eat. So on this particular day, I said to her, I'm going to do it. And I tracked what I had for breakfast. What I had for breakfast, the amount of calories was more than what I should have had in the entire day just for breakfast. And it wasn't a real restrictive caloric intake. But what it did for me is that it brought awareness of what I'm eating. And therefore, that just like, if I can track what I eat, I'm not saying I won't eat certain things, but it brings to my attention what I'm eating, the things I'm eating. I eat more things that aren't going to work against me, more fresh fruits and vegetables, less red meat. I bake my chicken. I don't eat fried chicken. There's nothing wrong with it. If I feel like it, I can, but it's not part of my everyday routine because this is serious to me. This is my health. I drink more water, less alcohol intake, because you'll sabotage yourself when you realize that one or two glasses of wine really makes a difference when you're watching your diet. You have to make a plan that works for you. You have to try and stick to that plan, and it's okay if you fall off a day here, a meal there, a week here or so, but just get back up and keep on doing it. Remember, you did not put the weight on in a week. So please don't be unrealistic with trying to lose weight and putting that pressure on yourself unnecessarily. It takes time to develop and to be consistent. You have to eat healthy, and you also have to coordinate exercising. Eating healthy and exercising is a lifestyle change. You must commit to a plan that works for you and with your family and with your job and with your budget. Stay away from people who try to keep you from sticking to your goals. Cling to those who are willing to motivate you. And you have to plan for a healthier life. To get a healthier life, you have to do the work. You should be eating less of these foods. You should be eating less cakes, cookies, white rice, breads, fried foods, anything fried. You should be eating less. You should be eating really less red meat, less alcohol, less sodas, sweet teas, whole milk. What you should be eating more of, you should be drinking more water, eating fresh fruits and vegetables, baked chicken and fish, steamed seafood or sauteed, not anything deep fried. You should try and stay away from those. Eat sweet potatoes versus white potatoes. Drink green tea. Use almond milk and coconut milk versus whole milk. These are just all simple things that you can coordinate into your weight loss goal. You're losing weight to live a healthier life. You can do this. I know that you can. Find what works for you and just do it. Thank you for listening to the Health Flow podcast. I hope you found this session informative. Email topics of interest or questions to the Health Flow podcast at gmail.com. Follow me on IG at the Health Flow podcast. Like us on Facebook at the Health Flow. You can also leave a voice message. Hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, have healthy thoughts and do healthy things. Are you thinking about starting your own podcast? If so, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, Anchor is free. Anchor has all the creation tools that allow you to record your podcast and edit it right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.